Compassion is giving voice to human finitude, the mother of Jesus. Now notice I didn't say Mary. I said the mother of Jesus. Because in John's gospel, John never says her name. Okay. In John's gospel, Jesus gives Mary a very, very important role, different than synoptic gospels, but he never says her name. Even if the other gospels, you know what her name is. She's always the mother of Jesus. And the reason he says that, because in John's gospel, she functions as Eve. She's not just Jesus' mother, she's your mother, she's everybody's mother, she's the mother of the planet. Now, and also in John's gospel, Jesus is always God. Remember from John's gospel, in the beginning was the Word, and the Word was with God, and the Word was God, and the Word became flesh. So Jesus is God walking around with human skin, and his mother is Eve. So let's take him to the wedding feast of Cana. Interesting text. They said, now it's interesting, that's first of all a text about Mary, more so than about Jesus. They said, there was a wedding feast at Cana, and Jesus' mother was invited, and Jesus also went along. Notice he's the tag along. Okay. You know, we had a remarkable woman from Mexico here a few years ago, and she, and to think about Our Lady of Guadalupe, and she showed me a wedding invitation. Her daughter was getting married in Mexico, so she flew down to put a handwritten invitation by the statue of Our Lady of Guadalupe, showed me the invitation, says, come to the wedding and you can bring your son along. Okay. Okay. Well, see, in John's gospel, the mother of Jesus, so now they're at the height of the feast. And the mother of Jesus comes to Jesus and says, son, they don't have any wine. Okay. Now, you're going to see that text fires at a couple of levels. Okay. We're going to look at the second level, the next thing, to change the water to wine. And Jesus says, woman, it's not the way you address your mother. That's God talking to Eve. This is the mother of the planet. And she says, we'll talk about that later on, the heart of life. But on the first, John's gospel has a surface level and a deeper level. At the surface level, she is a mother, and she is noticing that they're going to run out. The caterer come up short. That's an important point. So she's trying to bail them out. But notice what she's doing. She's giving voice to inadequacy, voice to human finitude. See, the mother of the planet, she's speaking to God. That's going to be a second level about what's not happening down here, And then eventually Jesus gives her the miracle. But see, John doesn't talk about social justice and so on. This is the text. See, our task, when we're compassionate, our task, I could do the whole thing on this, I'm just going to do it very briefly. Our task is always to give voice to human finitude. Whenever we notice there isn't any wine, whenever we notice somebody's coming up short, somebody has a disability, compassion has to step into there. But now the second level of that text. Compassion is letting our hour come so as to change water into wine. Okay. In John's gospel, things always have at least three levels. So the first level is she gives voice to human finitude. This is the second level. She says, son, they have no wine. Now, it's a very interesting expression. Why? Because wine isn't the protein. You don't eat wine to live. She didn't say, I've checked their fridge and there's nothing healthy to eat in this house. They have Doritos and Coke there, Okay. She says, they have no wine. Wine, okay, first of all, they're at a wedding. It's the image in the Gospels. That's the center of life. So Jesus, God, and Eve are at the center of life. And Eve says, I'm at the center of life and it's flat down here. See, wine is something that makes your spirit bubble and warms you. She said they have protein. They're getting the business done, but they're grinding their teeth at each other. It's an interesting metaphor. I go to a lot of meetings. I suspect many of you do too. But if you go to any meeting or any house or any gathering, in 5 minutes, on any day, you'll know whether there's wine in the room or no wine in the room. I go to a faculty meeting. Sometimes there's wine there. It's wonderful. Other days, we all want to kill each other. And we get business done. The business gets done the same way, but it's just grinding and there's tension. There's no wine in the house. Okay? It's a metaphor. The same, you can go to any house. So you sit down at your family dinner table. Some nights there's wine and some nights there isn't. Okay? But now, Jesus says, what's that to you and I? He said, my hour has not yet come. Now, we misunderstand that. He said, my hour has not come. That isn't his hour to do miracles. He's not saying like, Mom, the Father and I have a schedule. Okay. A schedule if you're in England. Okay. And see, miracles are really second and third year. The hour hasn't come. No, the hour always refers to the hour of his suffering and his death. He said, my hour has not yet come. He's not to do miracles. I'm not suffering yet. That's a very deep motif. You know what brings wine into a room? It's not necessarily the person who tells the best jokes and so on and lightens the atmosphere. Who is laying down blood for the family or the faculty or the community? That's what brings wine there. I was blessed with wonderful parents. We were poor. We didn't have wine in the house often, drinkable wine. We always had wine in the house because my mother and father were putting life down for the family. Their hour had come. The hour to be parents, the hour to give to your children and so on, the hour to do what is necessary, to suffer what's necessary and so on. See, today oftentimes in our churches, in our countries, our families, we're not doing this for each other. It's kind of, you live your life, I'll do mine and so on. We have to suffer, and that's what turns the water into the wine. And not only to wine, it turns into the best wine of all. And of course, since John is John, that's only the second level. There's a third level, because that wine becomes the wine of the Eucharist and the wine of forgiveness. And then in John's Gospel, at the end, when they pierce Christ's side, the blood and the water flow back. So the water becomes the wine becomes the blood, and the blood and the water flow back on humanity at the end of John's Gospel. But see, to love as Jesus loved, compassion, that means we have to suffer for each other.